Okay, so we started recording. Hi, I'm Suzanne Doolan. I'm the owner of the Sadhana catalog, www.sadhana, Sadhana catalog.com. We are talking with Thai yoga massage therapist, Robert Gardner, and we're going to be talking about the ethics of touch. Robert and I know each other because we have a mutual yoga teacher, Eric Schiffman. And Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in yoga and Thai massage? Did I mute you?
Before, so
I had you muted, so you can start
there
again.
There we go. So I wanted to talk about a little bit of my background, just so you know who I am. And then I'm probably going to talk about yoga and spirituality first, because once we get on to the ethics of touch and legislation, that's probably going to take up the rest of the time, is my guess. My background in massage and bodywork began in 1999. I was hit by a drunk driver while I was in school at LSU. I was a philosophy student. I had sustained a lot of soft tissue injuries related to a whiplash. I developed horrible TMJ dysfunction, chronic pain in my upper back and neck that were just completely intractable. Since I was in so much pain, I was asking doctors for pain medication, and they said they wouldn't give me any. When I asked them why they wouldn't give me any, they said you'll become addicted to it, but they had no answers for why I was in pain. They seemed to have no advice or information on how I was to continue living my life. And before that time, I had always been robustly healthy. I'd never had any physical issues or challenges. So it was a big flip to go from completely healthy as, this philosophy student at LSU to just sick overnight. I started looking into various sorts of what I guess you would call alternative therapies, because I dropped out of school, started working at a health food store. I changed my diet. I was working as a cook at that time. And a young lady I was in the job with was in massage school. She gave me the first massage I'd ever had, which was just kind of a deep Swedish. And my muscles felt slack for the first time in years. And I got mildly nauseous, I think because of the lymphatic dump that happened from that session, because my body just felt like its tissues were sort of shutting down. After that, I essentially decided within an hour that I was going to go to massage school, because it was the only thing that seemed to have helped in all the years I'd been, looking for things. And then there was just a cascade over the years from yoga, looking to the edges and fringes of body work, which included things like craniosacral therapy. Then when I got back to Louisiana and was working as a massage therapist, I was looking around for anything that could allow me to continue my health progress. So I had certainly gotten better through massage, but I still wasn't 100%, and I was like, there has to be more. And I remember finding a yoga class at a local studio, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know anything about yoga, but I mean, it involves your body. So let's go try that. I took like 3 yoga classes, was completely blown away by it, and engaged in that same mental exploration where I went to the library, found every book on yoga I could find, skimmed and read through them, found light on yoga, started to read, and some things just started to make more sense. But essentially what happened after that was, within a month of finding that yoga class, that was 3 that I took, within a month of that, I discovered Thai massage, and it was very much like peanut butter and chocolate. There were these 2 things. One was active, meaning yoga. One was passive, which was Thai massage. But they seemed like the opposite ends of the same coin. It was dealing with the same anatomy, physiology, the same mechanisms of biology. So I just poured myself into both. And not having much of a cultural context for yoga and not having much of a cultural context for Thai massage, I just mixed and matched and blended in a way that worked for me. So that's really how I got started. And I've been a massage therapist now for 15 years, yoga teacher for maybe about 12. I've continued to mix and match and blend practices in a way that, frankly, people find slightly confusing. But for me, it just integrates so seamlessly. I don't sometimes understand that there's this divide between what people think of as yoga and what people think of as massage. So increasingly, what would happen was if I hung out with people in the yoga community, they didn't understand the massage part. But if I hung out with people in the massage community, they didn't understand the yoga part. Like, it was like I came at things from a completely different background and a completely different perspective. So it often led to different sorts of manual therapy and massage that clients were like, what is this? And that's where it would get confusing because they're looking for a definition within, like, this is massage. But at a certain point, you have a license to interact with tissue, but it doesn't tell you necessarily how you interact with tissue. That's a much more broad category of soft tissue manipulation than what the average consumer thinks a massage is. So consistently, for instance, I would do a Thai massage demonstration at a massage school. When I would do that demonstration, the person I was working on would say, "You're doing myofascial release." And I'd say, "Oh, I thought I was doing Thai massage." And I would get these things that they're like, "Oh, you're doing trigger point therapy. You're doing active isolated stretching. You're doing," I'm like, guys, these things don't have definitions, and certainly legal definitions, other than being under the broader category of manipulation of soft tissue. So I just continued as freely as possible to work with clients to make them better. And in many instances, my own body was the experiment. I learned more by laying on a tennis ball and working on myself and doing breathing exercises than I did just working with an individual teacher who, opened everything up. And I've certainly had teachers along the way, but, I consider BKS Iyengar a teacher, but I never studied with him in person. I just pick up information where I get it. And since 1999, since I was 22 years old, all of that free thinking that I did towards philosophy just got shifted towards manual therapy. And the end goal was, how do you avoid medications and pharmaceuticals, or at least minimize them? And how do you maintain what people think of as optimal health using your own anatomy and physiology? So that's a bit of my background. If you guys have any questions, you can type into the chat. I am a talker, so if you have specific questions, I can make our discussion go into certain different angles. My background in yoga has generally been what people would consider just hatha. I really like Iyengar yoga particularly, and I really like Bikram yoga, which is a hot topic for a lot of people. My body seems to respond very well to those styles. And when I teach, and we'll talk about that, Ty, in just a second. When I teach, I tend to teach something that looks more like yin yoga. My yoga and my massage blended in a way where my yoga classes are teaching my students how to use props to open up pieces of their spine while they're breathing. And it's gotten to a point where it reminds me a little bit more of Eric Schiffman's classes, what he'll call freedom yoga, because the small number of students I see in my private home studio, I'm not really teaching unless they have a specific question. They say, "Hey, I have an issue with this." Then I'll come in and assist. Otherwise, we're usually just all kind of doing our own practice. Ty, when you ask about Thai massage being passive, most people in the West think of Thai massage as like it's having yoga done to them, meaning they're relaxed on a mat, so somebody's working on them. In my sessions, it can be a bit more interactive. So, for instance, I can put pressure on an area and then have the person move their arm. So my sessions when I'm practicing on people are actually a bit more interactive. People aren't usually going to sleep unless they're a regular client and they're just nodding off for a few minutes. Feldenkrais might be similar. I'm not as knowledgeable about Feldenkrais and how they're using that. I hear the name come up periodically. I know it involves some elements of movement, but there's a lot of crossover from various kinds of body work. I don't think there's really a lot new. In other words, people in the West will take something, repackage it, give it a new name, which I think is also an important process, but there's a lot of overlap between, like, what's the difference between Pilates and yoga and dance meditation and, all these things. And I think to some degree they're distinct, but there's this overlap. And I really honor the fact that I don't think there's anything really new. I don't think that happens very often. I do know about yoga tune-up. I've heard the name. I've not like taken classes specifically. Most of what I developed was just working on my own. I don't even remember how it started, honestly, other than maybe there was a tennis ball around, and I was like, "Hey, what happens if you press in my body with this?" And no, I don't know yoga tune-up. But see, yoga tune-up gets into this interesting spot, which is kind of leading towards that legislation thing, because essentially, to me, my guess is they're actually teaching people to massage themselves. But you don't need a massage license to do that. And that's where it gets into this weird kind of legal area. And also, there seems to be new stuff popping up every day. Yoga tune-up I had heard of previously. I put out videos years ago starting the process, showing people how to use a foam roll as a yoga prop, how to work on themselves, and then also tennis balls, just because they're so ubiquitous. It's easy to show people how to use those to work on their own chronic pain. So that gives you just a little bit of background about me. It's just a real mix. I'm a bit of an iconoclast. I don't get stuck in one tradition, especially not in a religious way. So did you guys want to talk about assists in yoga and physical touch? Spirituality? Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to that. So when I came to yoga, I'll give you a quick story about me taking yoga. I talked about those 3 yoga classes. When I went to yoga, it was because I had physical pain and I needed that pain to stop, or I knew that my quality of life was just going to be bad, especially in my early 20s. You don't want to live with that. I took 3 classes, and what I remember of those classes is basic yoga. The teacher would put us in a pose, and then as soon as the pose got difficult, I would stop breathing, and then she'd go, breathe. You get into the difficult part of the pose, and what did she do? Breathe. And I remember not the first class. I don't remember the second class. I remember the third class. And what happened was we finished the third class, and I walked out into the parking lot after everybody had left. And I, for lack of a better word, was completely high. I stood there with just slack jaw, like, what is wrong with me? I am so other. Wherever I had been before the class, I was somewhere else. And it took me time to try to figure out, like, what had happened, because I'd been in gymnastics in high school. I had stretched, push-ups, sit-ups, pommel horse, pretty brutal kind of physical activity. And I was like, why do I, feel this way? And it finally dawned on me it was the breathing. There was something about the breathing that had altered my headspace, where I was, like I said, I felt high. And when I tried to describe it to people, it was like I wasn't inebriated. I wasn't drunk. There was nothing unclear. And if anything, what I used to describe to people is, having lived in Louisiana and Texas, if you drive down the highway on long trips, you hit bugs, and those bugs splatter on your windshield. And what happens after a while is if you don't clean your windshield, you wind up kind of squinting to see through all that gross stuff on your windshield. If you stop at a gas station and clean your windows and you get back in and start driving, you're like, whoa, like I can see. There's no, you didn't realize how dirty it was. That was what the practice of yoga gave me after that third class. And I became, in my own way, sort of addicted to it because I could manage my own pain. Now, instead of having somebody work on me, I could manage my own stuff. And slowly over time, you just continue to work with it. I continued to study. And then I remember in high school, I was enamored and very taken back with religion generally. As a field of study, not just Christianity, but Hinduism, Buddhism, other religions. How do people think about God and the afterlife? And when I came across Buddhism, the concept of meditation didn't make any sense. It was like, why would a guy sit down and just clear his mind? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you do that? It's like you just become a zombie. But after my experience of yoga, I remember encountering the same concept and going, oh, wait a second. No, that's not really what they're doing at all. They're modifying, they're essentially hacking their own nervous system. You're using your nervous system, you're hacking your nervous system to get rid of pain. But it started to make sense because when I would practice yoga, there's the moving meditation. Eric talks about moving into stillness. And it made total sense at a certain point where at the end of a yoga class, I wanted to sit down and be silent and breathe. Because one, I could enjoy my body being mostly pain-free, but there was something else going on where whatever felt good about that physical part, it was like my nervous system was like more, and more became meditation, which for me is what started to open those doors of spirituality and the spiritual quest. But having the background that I did, it was non-denominational. It wasn't Christian anymore. It wasn't Buddhist. It wasn't Hindu. It was essentially grabbing on to the experience that biology would allow through my own nervous system. So it was like you didn't need an intermediary. You didn't need a religion. I tell people sometimes I'm spiritual but not religious. If you look at my teacher's wall, there's a big span of Buddhist teachers to Krishnamurti to yogic philosophy, also musicians. So my sense of spirituality had more to do with my own internal leanings than it did with a formal religious path. Yoga and the meditation, in addition to body work, just gave me another tool to kind of work out my stuff. And that's what I've stuck with. I can just as easily quote Buddhist teachers as I can the New Testament, which is kind of unsettling to some people, but it all kind of rolls together for me. And again, if you guys have questions about that, feel free to ask. But breathing across traditions, across religions. Breathing is the handle that all of them seem to go back to. So touching and adjustments in yoga, this is something that, oh boy, in the last 6 to 7 years, other than going to take classes at a local Bikram studio here in Austin, I have essentially pulled away from the yoga community. This interview is essentially the first time that I've even remotely gone towards the yoga community in years, because I never made my money teaching yoga classes. I have 3 regular students. That's it. I've never focused on making money in the yoga community. I've never focused on teaching the way other people think of it, especially not with like sun salutes. My teaching practice has changed over the years, just based on how I was working with my own students. So it's hard for me to get a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the larger yoga community, except what rolls through my feed or in talking to people like Kevin. Because I was working in a field where massage is licensed and yoga is not, there's this interesting dynamic that goes along, because I have a license that allows me to manipulate soft tissue. But I've had so many challenges because of what people are calling Thai yoga, which is essentially a variant of the same body work that I teach. But they're, instead of calling it Thai yoga massage, like my initial workbook, they're calling it Thai yoga because they presume that if they drop the word massage, they can practice it legally. The bigger challenge is one is licensed and one is not, and you're dealing with the border. Yeah, you're dealing with the border, the connection between those. So see, Kevin is asking about Thai yoga therapy. In my opinion, there's only so many different ways to deal with the human body. Once you put hands on people, my understanding of state law in Texas, and this is where it gets more complex because we're dealing with Texas law, not Arkansas, not Mississippi, not New York, not, Chicago, Illinois. So laws change from state to state. So there's a lot of weird legal stuff. Previously, or in years past, when teachers talk about manual assists or adjustments in yoga class, it was a very quick, typically. Yeah. It was a very quick, adjustment. The person has their arm out, and the teacher says, "Hey, lift your arm, lower your arm," something along those lines. And they were using a manual assist to help with that process. Under the strictest interpretation of massage law, I think in Texas, essentially that's illegal. I think that you have to have a massage license. If you look at the strictest interpretation, is massage is manipulation of soft tissue. If you're talking about manipulation of soft tissue, that manipulates soft tissue. But here's the thing. Massage law is written broad enough so that there's a looseness in interpretation. And I think it's almost purposefully written that way because it creates this weird kind of loophole situation where people can selectively enforce what's a problem. And I'll give you a quick example of this. There was a yoga teacher here in Austin who recently owned the website AustinThaiYogaMassage.com. AustinThaiYogaMassage.com. He had no massage license. And he was, I think, charging more per hour for Thai massage than I am. Now, that website is not up now. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's no longer doing that. But the thing is, if I bring that up to massage therapists, they just kind of go, "Oh, well, it's just one guy." And I say, well, listen, the law is set up in a way that technically that's illegal unless he has a massage license. So here's what I want to do. I want to open up a Thai yoga studio. And in my Thai yoga studio, I'm going to hire every 19 and 20-year-old I can from the acro yoga community. I'm going to train them personally. We no longer need a massage establishment license. I no longer need to teach people who are actually massage therapists. And I can hire anyone off the street to practice Thai yoga in my Thai yoga studio. If I do that, the state massage board is going to come after me and shut everything down. Because essentially what happens is I would make too much money. It would go affront to the industry, and then they'd say, "No, this is massage." And it's like, oh, so you get to selectively enforce what the problem is. Suzanne brought up the fact that therapy is a problematic word in yoga circles. What happened, I believe, in 2016 is the Yoga Alliance, because the Yoga Alliance is the largest certification body. It's not a, no, is that not correct? So the Yoga Alliance is not doing a certification anymore. Not at all? Well, they're not a
We can talk about this, but Yoga Alliance never certified. They do not have a certification program. All they do is if you take a program that follows their guidelines, they will register you. It is not a certifying body, and
So
it is not associated with any governing bodies that help governing bodies to define their define the skills that are required in that field.
So you're registered, not certified. Okay. So here's where you get into lawyerese. If we just use the word registered or we use the word certified, what's the difference? Now, there's probably a legal difference. I don't know. I haven't contacted my lawyer to talk about it. And that's what these conversations lead into, because yoga teachers will essentially go out and start teaching Thai massage and say, just don't call it massage, call it Thai yoga, call it Thai therapy, call it Thai yoga therapy.
So the difference is that you can't revoke a registration. And in fact, I know personally of a teacher who fraudulently used the Yoga Alliance name, and she is still on their registration list. Many teachers contacted the Yoga Alliance about her, and they were aware of it, and they said, we do not, she passed the qualifying requirements, and she is on our list forever.
Okay.
Nothing you can do to come off the list.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, I don't know it exactly from the yoga side. I know more about massage regulation. So here's the other component. I, as a massage therapist, when I bring these issues up in the massage community, nobody really listens. In fact, I've become a bit of a pariah in my industry because I talk about this and people get annoyed. But the thing is, because the work that I teach is primarily done on a mat, massage therapists don't primarily care about it. It's this little niche thing over to the edge of the industry that they're not really concerned about. So it creates an interesting situation for me, because here's what happens. I taught a class a couple of years ago in Dallas. There were 5 massage therapists and 3 yoga teachers. The yoga teachers went to one side of the room and the massage therapists went to the other side. And when the massage therapist found out yoga teachers were taking my intro class, introduction, they started yelling at each other. The massage therapists are angry at these yoga teachers and say, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I asked them why. And they said, well, this is massage. And I was like, no, they're just going to take a piece of it and blend it into their yoga class. And they're like, they can't do that. And I'm like, why? Because the massage therapists don't understand what's going on in the yoga world and vice versa. So I am in a situation where there are people in the traditional Thai massage community, specifically, in my experience in the United States, they thumb their nose at all regulation of massage in the United States. They don't think Thai massage applies. They think Thai massage is a misnomer. They can call it Nuad Boran. It's not massage, it's Nuad Boran. So you wind up in the situation where, pardon me, I feel like I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. Because if I go out and teach the yoga community, let's say I really focused on that, well, then what happens is I'm actually training people, and this is legal, by the way, I'm training people who can't legally go out and practice the work for a fee. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I'm with the Yoga Alliance, and I'm also with, the regulatory bodies. So just to give you an idea of some of the complexities, the Yoga Alliance fights licensure for massage. I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But massage therapists aren't going into the yoga community as much as I try to drag them in. The yoga teachers, in a sense, are coming into the massage community. And there's no real control. So the challenge is, so for instance, let's say a teacher is calling what he does Thai yoga therapy. He can cross state lines and teach without an issue. I can't do that. For me to go into another state, I have to get another license to be able to teach massage therapists, because massage therapists want to get continuing education credits by their state. Now, I could, let's say, go into another state and teach if there were enough people, but you're getting into this branding, licensing, regulation, insurance, liability issues that get all mucked up after a while. Long term, my training is really blending the essence of what people mostly consider Thai massage and yoga. I've completely seamlessly blended these things into a unique package that I'm trying to sell to the massage community. But it's a challenge to get them to understand, because the first thing I do is come in and basically make a hamburger out of their sacred cow. And their sacred cow is the massage table. And I come in and say, why do you work on a table? Well, we're massage therapists. I'm like, yeah, but why do you work on a table? And they're like, well, that's what they taught us in school. And I'm like, okay, but why is a mat less effective than working on a table? And that puts me at odds with 99% of the entire massage community in the United States. But I'm still bound by those laws to be able to teach those massage therapists. So the materials that I produced can be used by anybody. I went and did the big no-no and the big sacrilegious thing by making a free workbook and giving it away to Planet Earth, which means anybody can use the materials. The way that I teach is simple. It's not designed per se to use anatomical terminology in a way people can't understand. Even though I reference, semimembranosus and semitendinosus, it's just to give people an anatomical reference. All the materials are produced in much the same way that I'm having this conversation with you. They're in my voice, and they're designed to be simple so that anybody can use it. But I still run into that regulatory thing where, massage therapists are frustrated that I'm teaching yoga teachers, but it's not illegal for me to teach yoga teachers. It's illegal for them to technically give sessions for money. So, and I'll give you another quick example of this, Suzanne, just so you understand. I run an event here in Austin called Thai Massage Jam that I trademarked. Thai Massage Jam is a community bodywork event, for lack of a better word. Thai Massage Jam was something I created years ago that literally the pieces just fell into my lap, and I said, wait a second, what is this? Because the acro yoga community here in Austin were the only ones that were really interested in Thai massage. I wound up in a room one evening for what they called a Thai massage open practice, is what they think they called it. And when I showed up, the young lady knew me. She had met me online like a couple days before the event, and she said, hey, would you teach us some stuff? And I was blown away that anybody even knew what Thai massage was. So I worked with those 8 or so people, showed them some stuff that night. We all worked together in a group setting. They had so much fun. They said, can we do it next week? 5 years later, we've done that every Thursday night for 5 hours for the last 5 years. Anybody can come, anybody can learn, anybody can give, anybody can receive, and I share and work on people freely. $5. Well, here's the thing, just to give you an example, the yoga community doesn't really have much interest because they're like, this isn't yoga. And then the massage community doesn't really like it because they're like, you're giving it away. And I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal, whatever. But you're giving away education. I'm like, yeah, you should come out. It's $5. You can learn all the stuff that I'm charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a formal class for free. And then the thing is, guess what happens? The massage therapists don't want to learn around people who aren't licensed. Because there's this barrier that the license has created. Because there's this line between, like, massage therapists literally don't want to teach the public how to work on themselves because they think they don't make as much money. Check that out. Ooh. And they're nervous about learning around people who aren't licensed. No. The barrier and red tape, if you ask me, and I don't talk about this, people on Facebook think I talk about it. What I don't really say is I don't think massage should be licensed at all. I think it's all a shell game. I don't think it really does much to protect the public, and I'm not going to go into great detail, I think, in this conversation about it. But the massage laws as written aren't even enforced in Texas, in my experience. That puts me at odds with the bulk of the massage community, but it's just the way it is. It doesn't open doors. What it does is it creates more barriers of entry, because teachers in other locations don't want me to travel there and then suck up their market, so to speak. It essentially, most regulation prevents competition. That's how I see it. So I release free YouTube content. I teach people. Nobody has an issue. If I run a Thai massage jam, then it's like, oh, what do you mean you teach people who aren't licensed? And I'm like, listen, if a husband and wife come in, I just show them how to work on each other at a level they can understand. And if they want to work on the neck, I just show them, hey, you don't work on this front part of the neck. Just make sure you stay to the back. In the posterior, there's muscles back here you can press on. There's very little chance of injury if you're using your hands. You're just giving people knowledge at a level that they can receive it. That's what I do. That's what I love. And again, I'm an iconoclast. I just keep going. And over time, I collect a lot of haters. Yeah, so foot reflexology, if I'm correct, is also regulated state to state. Even though you are manipulating soft tissue, it's considered its own little area. So I think you can be a reflexologist without being a massage therapist, but you're not supposed to put pressure on anything above the knee. So now what we've done is we cut up the body and said, oh, you can touch this part, but not this part. Yeah. And then also here in Texas, there are just what people consider like Asian massage facilities, where in Houston, what I'm told is like there are Thai massage facilities in Houston. I have no idea what's actually going on in them. And people will tell me they think what these facilities do in many cases is they have one person who's licensed, and then they have 5 people in the back who are working without a license, so that if anybody comes in, the person with the license runs up front, and everybody in the back says, "Oh no, we're just back here cleaning. We don't do massage here." See what I mean? So it's like when you talk about my state, also keep in mind when I talk about regulation and my biases. So maybe you're a massage therapist and you're frustrated that I'm saying massage shouldn't be licensed. You have to understand some of my perspective. Texas is the size of Germany. We have one inspector currently for the entire state of Texas. There's little to no enforcement of massage law as we think of it. What the state board does go after is sexual impropriety, cases of rape. You know, if somebody's really being injured, if there's somebody who's, they're reporting. Yeah. Jinshin Jiu-Jitsu, I've heard of. I don't know much about it. At least I've heard the name. And also, when you travel to different states, there are different rules. In some states, there is an Asian bodywork exclusion, which means if the bodywork you teach is based on Asian theory, you don't need a massage license to practice it or teach it. Some states have that, some states don't. What that means is if recently somebody wanted me to come to Iowa to teach, well, Iowa has rules set up in such a way that yoga teachers can do Thai massage. In Illinois, I think, in fact, it's the same thing where I think you can call yourself a body worker, but maybe not a massage therapist. I'm not sure about the law. So, Karen, when I talk to massage therapists about this, I'm not making any more fans some days. Let's put it that way. The way I see it is this. Some massage therapists will get involved in human trafficking organizations. And the reason they get involved in human trafficking organizations is that some massage parlors or facilities are essentially using massage as a front for prostitution and sex trafficking. But they don't do that within yoga. Makes sense? Yoga isn't really a front for that. So massage therapists are justifying massage regulation to cut down on human trafficking. And I say, no, that's probably should be dealt with by the State Board of Human Trafficking. What they're doing is, years ago when massage was regulated and licensed, here's my perspective on it, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm open to debate and questions about this. Massage was regulated to separate it from prostitution and to give people liability insurance. I don't know that it's done a very good job for that, because then what happens is, if you read massage therapist forums, massage therapists, particularly female massage therapists, even in 2017, they're complaining about creepers, which is guys who are coming in and requesting sexual favors. Now, I have complex feelings about this, but I say, okay, listen, if you would like that to stop, you need to make prostitution legal. And that sets off a complete other firestorm, because they're like, oh my God, now he's in favor of regulating and licensing prostitution. And I'm like, yes, because generally having libertarian leanings about prostitution, drugs, and gambling means that mostly what people consider victimless crimes are made much worse by making them illegal, in my opinion. Mostly what I see massage regulation as having done is attempting to separate massage from prostitution. But here's the thing. When female massage therapists, I never hear them say this perspective, because when a John wants a sexual service, I don't necessarily think of that in and of itself as an evil, moral wrong. You know, I see that as, here is a person who wants to pay for sex. Who am I to tell him he can't pay for sex? But here's what massage therapists don't consider. If a man right now wants to go purchase sex, he can go to a street corner and find someone who may have track marks on their arm, or he can go to a nice, clean, licensed facility with good laundry services and risk asking a massage therapist for assistance. Now, I don't like that situation, and I don't encourage people to do that, but the reason that happens is because prostitution is illegal, in my opinion. That's how I look at it. I'm reading the comments to see what it's talking about with, yeah, not much makes me popular. I get into a lot of, hairy conversations. Yeah. So complexity when it comes to regulation. One of the things that I've seen with yoga teachers, and you're trying to figure out like yoga assists. I remember years ago, I took a yoga class. I have a problem, an ongoing issue with my left shoulder. And the teacher came along when I was an up dog and grabbed my shoulder and twisted it very quickly. And my shoulder cracked because my shoulder joint went to a different position. It wasn't painful. I wasn't injured. But I just thought for a second that if you were new to yoga, that might be really kind of unsettling. I tend to go into adjusts in a much more gentle way. So, for instance, one of the things I don't see as often when yoga teachers are talking about manual assists, manual adjusts in class is, instead of coming in and putting your hand on the student and moving them, why don't you come and say, hey, listen, your arm is kind of high. I want you to lower your arm to where my hand is. So what happens is, energetically, you put the student in a place where they're touching you to put themselves in alignment, as opposed to you touching them and forcefully. Like, I think there's room for both, mind you, but there's a difference in that physical interaction. When I went through my yoga teacher training program years ago, I was already a massage therapist. I don't remember the last time I saw people who were so physically uncomfortable making physical contact with people. The yoga teachers were, because I was like, whoa, relax. just calmly interact with them. It's fine. It's, and the thing is, I don't know how much detail different teacher training programs go into in regards to that, but I think there's a complexity that goes along with manual assists, and much like touch itself, it really depends on the student and their connection with the teacher and how you can physically interact. There are so many options, and I encourage my students to go through their own, self-exploration. Because I'm a massage therapist, I don't think about the ethics of touch in quite the same way. So, for instance, some yoga teachers ask, when people are coming in for a yoga class, they're not expecting to be touched. As a massage therapist, my clients are expecting me to touch them. There's a difference there. And also, I think it just depends on the rapport you build with the students. When I'm starting out with a new student, I'm more likely to put them in that position where I have their hand meet mine. I think it's a safer way of doing that. And it's also increasing the student's kinesthetic awareness of moving their own body into position. Yeah, the cards thing to me almost seems like overkill. I mean, I'm not going to criticize somebody who does that, but I think opening that conversation about touch is important. And part of the challenge is yoga has gone from India to America. And these are just two different cultures. I've heard horror stories about stuff that went on in India, teacher to student, and it's just a different culture. We have other issues in the United States, and what I can tell you based on stuff like Thai Massage Jam, in fact, though, even though I am teaching Thai massage, giving body work, giving Thai massage at these events, we're on the front lines of touch, intimacy, sexuality, physical contact, intimacy, nurturing. It's absolutely hysterical to me because there'll be like a young 20-something guy, and I can see it in his eyes. He's come to this event, people are touching, and he's like, "Oh my God, I get to touch a girl. Wow." And then a couple, weeks down the road, he's sitting around, it's just guys because everybody's partnered up. There's just a handful of guys, and they go, "Hey, will you work on me?" And I go, "Now you get it." Because they don't have any sort of physical intimacy, male to male, almost at all, unless a guy's punching you or wrestling with you. So the thing is, you're opening up these doors related to physical intimacy that people aren't quite familiar navigating. So the Thai Massage Jam becomes like a good educational tool to allow people to deal with the fact that they're like, wow, we live in America. We don't touch very much at all. Yeah, Ty, I don't know. Different kinds of work. People, again, they give, different names to things. I think there's a huge amount of overlap. Huge amount of overlap. When yoga teachers are interacting with students, I talk to massage therapists about the same thing. There's a therapeutic relationship. There's a therapeutic relationship, teacher to student, client to student, client to therapist. And one of the things I encourage massage therapists to do, and I think holds for the yoga community as well, is we know that it's therapeutic. Everybody knows it's therapeutic. But why don't you focus on the fact that it's a relationship? If I was in class with Suzanne, I'm having a relationship of sorts with Suzanne. If you focus more on that relationship and making that relationship as clear and healthy as you can, that's the winning piece. Whether it regards actual physical touch or not. It's working with Suzanne to try to give her an optimal experience in that class. That's what it's amount to. It's you focus on the relationship. I don't really have any judgments about whether teachers in classes are doing physical adjust or not, because when you say physical adjust or physical assist, that is such a broad category for how people are interacting that it almost doesn't mean anything other than physical contact happens. Oh boy. Well, how do I do this? I don't want to name names. There's a gentleman in the United States who operates his own church affiliated with the Native Americans. I think it's Seminole. And if you join into his church, you can essentially thwart all massage laws in the United States. And if you are gone after, you can basically have their lawyers, swoop in and claim religious immunity for your, religious practice now to do, essentially what Thai massage is. So there are lots of different things about that. I had a massage therapist and an educator here in Austin contact me and get angry because a young man had taken my intro to Thai massage class. He was apparently going out and working on clients. He was working on people and charging without a massage license. And when this other massage therapist called me to complain about this, I said, okay, well, report him. And then she got frustrated because she's like, they're not going to do anything. And I'm like, okay, so what would you like me to do? Because if I call him and say, hey, don't don't do Thai massage without a license, he's just going to go, say, get out of here. It doesn't care what I think, right? So it's an odd situation. And Thai, for me, what happens is, let's say I drop my massage license, I get a card that says I'm a registered minister. Though technically I could do that, what then winds up happening is I put myself at odds with the main market of people that I'm trying to bring into the community of body workers with the stuff I'm teaching. And that's what I'm still trying to figure out. It's like I'm on the fringes where it's difficult for me to continue growing what I'm doing if I wind up taking that channel. And I know a massage therapist in another state, by the way, who completely just gave up their license and is doing that, by the way, and is practicing massage. So, okay, when Suzanne was asking about my materials, I have my materials available on Teachable. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in before I forget. You don't have to click off and run away to that just yet.
I'm going to unmute myself. So what he's talking about is that, first of all, we have a freebie up on Sadhana catalog.
Okay.
I'll put a link up in the chats for that one. And it's just free. Just go over there and download it. There won't be, you don't need to put in a credit card. And then what Robert's putting in is a link to a bundle of materials, and you have a coupon code off that. How much is it for?
I think the coupon code gives you 10% off. Was what I set up.
What does it teach?
So the coupon code is just Sadhana. If you happen to catch this on YouTube, it's just available for today. It's not long term. So Sadhana is the coupon code. It gives you 10% off. What I do is I have an intro set of materials, a table-based set of materials, and then phase 1 and phase 2. It winds up being, I think, 700 plus pages of sequence manuals. And then just about, is it 6 hours? Let's see, 2.5, 1.5, just about 6 hours worth of video content. The video content follows the workbooks page by page to show you how to go through the sequences. What a teacher would wind up doing, a yoga teacher in particular, is you're going to take sections of that are mat-based and basically blend pieces of it as yoga assists in class. If somebody you noticed they were doing downward facing dog and they've got tight hamstrings, their calves are really tight, you can put the student on their back and essentially work on them from a standing position while you're looking at the rest of class. You can work on that one student in their calves. Just little options like that. What will also happen if you follow me on social media, I'm very active. I'm probably going to wind up doing classes of a sort online for yoga teachers to show you how to do manual assists in the form that I use them. Just little tips and tricks related to having the student meet you as opposed to forcefully, moving the students around.
This is your Twitter I'm putting in.
Twitter. Yeah, like I'm all over social media: Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. I use those constantly, nearly daily. I post. So,
and if you're friends with me, Suzanne Doolan, then you can find him through me on Facebook. I'm following him on Twitter. So that's another way to find him.
Yeah.
If anybody wants a particular social media, we can tell you how to find Robert. I want to let people know that I thought it was great, and I really would love to do some more of these. And Robert and I have talked about wanting to do more of these. So we I think probably will. So keep your eye out. Join the Sadhana Facebook community if you haven't already. Thank you, Ty. He was clapping. So I'm really excited. I thought it was a great talk, and I really appreciate your taking your time to share all this knowledge with us. You really flipped me 180. I thought that it would give me, like, a massage therapy license would give me some protection if I were to touch students. And now I'm thinking it's probably better to just kind of be free from that restriction in my mind.
And that is where you add some complexity. There's so many pieces when you talk about regulation that it's very, very complex. And I've dealt with it for years and continue to look at it. And it's like, it's not just what's written on the rule books, it's how it's interpreted and enforced.
And also, if people want to talk about this issue of regulation, quote unquote, or not in yoga world, let me know, because it's something I have real strong opinions about based on the fact that I'm an instructional designer. I understand how educational material should be designed for certification programs. I can talk from that perspective about what I see is not correct with the Yoga Alliance. And I just think if you, like, for example, Kevin said that he was interested in going into teaching yoga. I think it's really, I wish somebody had talked with me about it before I went in. I'm not registered with the Yoga Alliance, and I've been very grateful that I had some good advice when I was young to not pursue it. I think it's nice to understand why you might choose it or not choose it. Anyway, got you off the topic, but if people are interested in that topic, let me know, and I'll set up a live call to the Facebook group to talk about it.
Yeah.
Good. So we're going to be doing these 2 p.m. times with different people from the sadhana community all over the world, so that everybody can get to know the people in the community. We have tons of really interesting advanced practitioners of yoga of all stripes. So keep watching on Sundays at 2 p.m. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, join the Sadhana community Facebook page, group, Facebook group. We also have a page. And participate to learn about the upcoming events. Okay, we're going to end the meeting now. Thank you again, Robert.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll be happy to do this again sometime soon.
I would love to. Thanks everybody for joining us. It made it a great call.
It was nice to see all of you. It's really, really great.